thought, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm going to allow this SOP to go through because, after all, we're all for competition for New Zealanders. We all want to remove that element of doubt. Thank you very much.
I call the honourable member Todd McLeod.
I move that the question be now put.
No. I call the honourable member Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr Chair. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora. I'm going to take a quick call on this bill. I just want to point out on the Hansard the absolutely shocking poor process this legislation has been through under this chamber. The Minister's got a name as the Colossus of Roads and his transport hat on. Now he's clearly got a name for himself as the Minister of Poor Process. This bill's been rushed through under a secretive drafting process. We've seen SOP 204 slammed on the table, an SOP normally the size of a piece of legislation slammed on the table with only a limited time given to the public to have their say. And now we're seeing the same habit occur from this Minister who slams another SOP 247 on the table. I missed it originally when I went to the table because I thought it was a bill on the table, but no, in fact it's the Minister's SOP 247. Now this SOP does some pretty large things. I don't think anyone out in the public or in the telecommunications sector, except maybe Telecom, was aware of the big changes happening in the Kiwi share obligation. My question to the Minister is, if these protections around Kiwi ownership, around the protections for Kiwi telecommunication customers, if the Minister's going to ensure them through the deed with Chorus, why doesn't it exist in the legislation? Why is the Minister watering down these protections? The second question for the Minister is, how many times has he been meeting with Telecom directly to discuss this issue? If we had a lobbying bill in Parliament, which the member Sue Kedgley has, we might know some of these questions. How many times was the Minister asked directly by Telecom to get this provision? Because what the Kiwi share obligation does is protects Kiwi ownership of Telecom and protects Kiwi customers. What we're seeing, though, is the Minister protecting instead Telecom. And through this bill, more than 900 million of the 1.35 billion is going to be going to Telecom, and it's going to be going offshore in terms of profits. We saw the same thing with the regulatory forbearance. And my question for the members on the committee who argued during deliberations to keep the regulatory forbearance, who argued it passionately against the special access undertakings, why they're now happy to simply, again, through a poor process where the Minister 2 days after the Select Committee report was tabled in this House, that he totally got rid of the regulatory forbearance, the regulatory holiday. Why were those members, so active advocates for regulatory forbearance in the Select Committee, now quite prepared to see all that work literally wiped away? Because what the Minister's done through another pool process is got rid of that because of the work of the Māori Party and the last-minute stitch-up. So we've gone from essentially a Wild West environment where the government essentially wouldn't put enough money in to achieve their coverage ambitions of 75%, decide to set up a Wild West environment where there would be no regulation, no laws to sort of foster civilisation out in the Wild West, if you take that analogy. But essentially what the government's now done is still set up the Wild West, but they're offering to underwrite all the costs and all the risks of the private companies trying to develop themselves in that Wild West environment. So my question for the Minister is simply like the question asked of Dr Mapp in the House today: how much money did the Minister take to Cabinet to ask for this, given it was the second priority on the government's election table? Did the Minister ask for more than 1.35 billion? If so, what was the figure? It should be an easy question to answer. So essentially the Minister of Poor Process continues that poor process, no analysis of the major changes in Supplementary Order Paper 247, no public input. Essentially the Minister just stands there and says, trust me, trust the negotiations and the Crown Fibre holding, trust the contracts. Well, quite frankly, I don't trust the Minister at all.
I call Larissa Wall.
Thank you, Mr Chair. It's been very interesting listening